All right, Week 12 is in the books. Besides the Harbaugh Bowl tomorrow night, Baltimore and LA, that'll be a great game. We just watched a slaughter. 37-20 is the final score. Game really was not that close. The Eagles disembowel the Rams to get to 9-2, 7 wins in a row. Thanks for finding First and Pod wherever you're listening. We appreciate it. We don't just want you to listen. We want you to subscribe. You subscribe, you rate, you review. The podcast grows. We're getting more recognition. I'm Andrew Fillipponi, Spencer Race producing, Pat Peterson with us. Pat was everywhere last week. He was in LA. He was spreading the gospel of First and Pod on Good Morning Football and over at FS1, and that's huge for us. So we loved seeing Pat get his shine and exposure for the podcast over the last few days. Pat, the Eagles tonight said, and I got you, Spence. I'm tilting down on this laptop for our visual audience. Pat, the Eagles said tonight, hey, Detroit, we're ready. There's 2 teams that can win the NFC. That was what this game was about. And Saquon Barkley said, let's not give a quarterback the MVP just yet with 255 yards. He was incredible. He's had many coming out party games like when he went back to New York. But this was in prime time on Sunday Night Football. He was the guy that was drafted by the Giants as a transcendent running back. That's how good he was. It reminded me, Pat, the closest thing I can come up with is when Randy Moss went to the Patriots and it put that offense from great to God tier. That's what he's doing for the Philadelphia offense. They already had the offensive line. Jalen Hurts there. It seems like that tension between him and Sirianni is now in the past. And it's just like a pick your poison. They didn't even have Devontae Smith tonight. Yeah. And they score 37 points. And that Rams defense has been underrated and pretty good all year. And the Eagles offense, other than kicking field goals, basically did whatever they wanted in this game tonight.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles set the tone from the get-go. Just really playing bully ball on both sides of the ball. Really running the ball behind Saquon Barkley and that offensive line, which is one of the best units in all of football. And they just made it absolutely difficult for Matthew Stafford and their offense from the first quarter to the second quarter. I mean, just literally sacking in the first half, overall having 4 sacks. It could have had a couple interceptions in there. Just really, really made it hard for Matthew Stafford to connect with his receivers down the field. But I was really impressed with how the way the Philadelphia Eagles just continue to play their style of ball, especially in the second half of the season, because that was a big question mark last year. And I feel like this team is really, really catching their stride at the right time. And like you said, this game was a statement game stating that there is another team in the NFC that can challenge the Detroit
I agree.
Lions.
I think they can beat Detroit. I'm not picking them to do that yet, but they're at least making me think about it.
Yeah. This game definitely makes you think about it because both of those teams are set up identical. They're going to play great defense, got huge playmakers at the skill position. And you got a quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over, especially when their top guys are in the lineup.
And I think Philly, from a talent perspective, has got the defensive edge, Pat.
Yeah,
I think in terms of quality of player, with what Jalen Carter's doing, Sweat and Dean at linebacker, and your bread and butter. How about these corners? I mean, Slay's been around for a while. He's a good player. But Mitchell from Toledo has been an X factor for them and a huge upgrade over Bradbury and the guys they had there last year. I said on the podcast, I think when you were out, to me, he's the defensive rookie of the year. I don't care what the stats say, interceptions wise, he shuts dudes down.
Yeah. He's played really, really above his experience. For the most part, I had the opportunity to watch him play today.
What do you see in him, Pat? What's he do well?
He's a very patient player. He understands the game very well, and he's also a 4-down player. He goes back there and catch punch as well. So those players are very, very hard and unique in itself. So just his patience at the line of scrimmage and also understanding route combinations. You could just tell that he understands the game very well, and also was coached up very well to be able to make these plays that he's making at the highest level.
How far off is Saquon Barkley in your MVP conversation? How close is he to the number one spot?
Man, with this game today, he's very close because this is not the only game that he had 150 plus yards. I know he had 250 yards, but this is not the only game that he had 150 plus. You know, if he continues to,
he's on pace for 2,000.
Yeah, so if he continues to run the football the way he's running the football today, he's going to continue to climb. But right now, he's top five.
Top five. So right now on FanDuel, I just pulled this up. Josh Allen is 1.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson is 2, and then Barkley is 3. He's leapfrog Goff and Mahomes at this point. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'd put him ahead of Jackson. I mean, to me, I can't give a quarterback the award on a team that finishes in a wild card spot unless his stats are unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And Allen, just a breathtaking game against the Chiefs and what he's been able to do for them. So I'm fine with that. I'd have him second right now. And Goff is nipping at his heels. He's right there. I've got Goff a little bit higher than they do too, even though he had the 5 interception game against Houston, what he's done for that Lions team. But we have not had a running back or a non-quarterback win the MVP since Adrian Peterson,
right?
That's exact. Yeah. Look at you, man. See, you're just not only do you know the game X's and O's wise, but you're even your ability to recall stuff like that is why you're at this. All right, so that'll be that sums up Eagles Rams here. Unless you got something else you want to say about the game, Pat, I shouldn't cut you off. Anything else stick out to you?
Nah, we pretty much hit it. Pretty much hit it from all angles as far as speaking of the game.
And the Rams are done now.
Yeah,
I think the Rams are in a bad spot given what happened in the NFC West today.
Yeah, I think. Well, hell, the whole NFC West was a loser except for the Seahawks. But no, I have nothing else on this game.
Okay, let's get to the Sunday games.
Good game by the Eagles, and hopefully they can keep this mojo going.
49ers and Packers is where we'll start. Mm-hmm. The 49ers got drilled without Purdy. Yeah. He ended up not playing with a shoulder injury. I have 2 big takeaways on this game, and I'm going to tell you what they are, and I'm going to give you a chance to react to both. The first one I'm going to say is on San Francisco big picture. I think they missed their window, Pat. Mm-hmm. I think they had their opportunity to win Super Bowls. I think it's come and gone. Debo had only 1 catch in this game. Ayuk tore his ACL. Kittle might be a cap casualty at the end of the year. Trent Williams is getting close to 40, although still playing at a high level. But now the injuries are catching up to him in a big way. And I don't know, man. I just have a hard time believing that a team made up of guys that are mainly in their late 20s and early 30s now, 2 Super Bowls behind them, under 500 this late in the year. I think that their best chance to win it happened. It's come and gone. And that doesn't mean they're going to be irrelevant. But if I were a 49ers fan, I'd be sitting on my couch when this game ended or watching them get blown out. The worst loss they've ever had to the Packers, by the way, by 4 touchdowns, thinking we blew it. We had chances to win Super Bowls, and Patrick Mahomes denied us both times.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% because, like you said, a lot of these guys are going to be cap casualties heading into next year because now we got to find a way to pay Brock Purdy if that's what the San Francisco 49ers want to do. And this is the first time in a long time that I saw and is going to say this is that the San Francisco 49ers was out physical. And that's something that we rarely get to say. I know they didn't have Brock Purdy in there as a starting quarterback, but the defense still had to show up. And Josh Jacobs just ran right through every defender that was on the San Francisco 49ers defense.
Makes Bosa look underpaid, doesn't he? Because when he doesn't play, they get destroyed.
No doubt about it. And also, on top of that, it looks like Jawan Jennings might be the San Francisco 49ers number 1 receiver, the way he's been playing ever since the absence of Brandon Ayuk. But this team, like you said, they're very, I believe their window has shut. A very, very older team than other teams across the league. And it's just been, in my opinion, just too many distractions heading into this season.
You called that, man. You were
Yeah.
all over that.
Heading into the season, now into the season, you got injuries. It's just this team was not focused from the jump, in my opinion. And that's why they're playing the way they're playing right now.
Well, so the other takeaway I had, I think the other big winner in this game was actually Purdy. Because Purdy, the last thing he would want, his people, is for the system to show that any quarterback could get plugged in there and go off, which when Garoppolo went out and he went in, that's what people were saying. So Brandon Allen was terrible in this game. Xavier McKinney, this now two guys. I'm actually wearing a New York Giants sweatshirt, by the way. I don't know why. They gave this. This must have been at Goodwill. I got this for free because nobody else wanted to wear it. Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, both going
McKinney leads the league in interceptions, and Barkley's going to go for 2,000 yards. That's how you get to the Giants squalor where they're 2-9. Both of those guys let him walk, but he had his 7th interception today. Mm-hmm. It's a game that makes Purdy, like Tua when he was out in Miami, look like he's more irreplaceable. Pat, the drop-off from starter to backup was that pronounced because for years we heard, well, it's the Kyle Shanahan system. Didn't look like the system was very good in this game today at all.
Nah, it definitely looked like the system was not activated, if you want to say so. But we'll see next week. I don't know how long Brock Purdy is going to be out. We'll see.
They're saying he's going to play next week.
Oh, okay. Then I was going to say, if that's the case, if Brandon Allen was going to get the call again next week, maybe Cal have a better game plan in place for Brandon Allen. But if Brock Purdy is going to get the go, because they're going to need him, although they're still only one game out of the league in the NFC West, they're going to need Brock Purdy to play the rest of this season to give themselves a shot.
All right, what do you got for me next year, Pat? Cue me up on this crazy game.
Oh, man, we got the Chiefs and the Panthers, another last-second win. What is your take on this one?
Well, I saw a lot of the post-game shows, and they were saying this is the best game Bryce Young's ever played. And I think everybody roots for Bryce Young because of everything he's gone through. He's a very likable kid. But the flip side of that is Kansas City's defense let him have the best game he's had ever in the NFL. Yeah. And he's throwing to David Moore was his leading receiver, and Adam Thielen, who I know who you respect mightily, but it's his first game off a hamstring injury. The guy's missed 2 months. And they're going up against this great Kansas City defense, and they got 9 points late in the game, and they rally, and they almost come all the way back and win. So this now 2 weeks in a row, the Bills, you write it off as, hey, it's Buffalo. Now it's Carolina that was able to move the ball against you. So that's warning sign number one. This defense is not playing at its elite level the last 2 games. And then the next thing is this, man. And I brought this up, and you said, well, Mahomes is able to always get out of trouble, and so the offensive line doesn't matter as much. Dude, these tackles are not good. Mahomes got sacked 5 times today. Pat, they're so desperate, they had to call up your old friend DJ Humphries. He got signed there. He's going to come back. They're hoping he plays next week, but they've basically brought him off the street to be a left tackle. That's how concerned they are right now about that position. So, I think most of the year we've just said, hey, give them the benefit of the doubt because they're the Chiefs. This is if they had played 10 other teams in the NFL, I think would have beaten them today.
The last 3 weeks.
Right. Denver at least is looking like they're a legitimate team now. This is a scary win for them. This is a red flag win, in my opinion.
And what did I say as well? Yeah, we know the Chiefs can win any type of way. But how long is winning this way is going to last?
They're playing with fire big time.
Yes, it's cool if you win a game by a point or two every other week. But this is happening every single week, and they're just getting by because they're not playing, I won't say good teams. If they were playing better teams, they would have probably lost those games, which it showed in Buffalo when they played Buffalo in Buffalo last week. So they got to find a way to get obviously protect Patrick, because that's a big no. He can't be getting hit that many times and running for his life majority of the football game. So hopefully DJ Humphrey comes in there and provides some help. But I'm gonna go back to Bryce Young, man. Over the last 3 weeks, this was his best game by far. And I'm gonna tell you why I believe this was his best game by far, because now the Carolina Panthers are moving the pocket for him. The running game is a little bit more sustainable. It's not 35 yards a game. Now they're in the 80s, between the 80s and the 90s, and that's something that's helping Bryce Young as well in the passing game. And today, the Panthers did a great job of playing keep away and converting on key moments, moments in that game on third down in the red zone. I know they kicked a lot of field goals early, but when it came down to the nitty gritty, they played their best football. Obviously, like I said, Bryce Young having his best game. He was 21 to 35, 263 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown. I mean, that's winning football. And I don't know if him sitting down a couple of weeks and letting the game really come to him and letting it unfold. But the last 3 weeks, man, Bryce Young has looked like a total different quarterback.
I also think that if the Chiefs don't get home at the quarterback, their secondary is not holding up like it did in the past. Snead's playing in Tennessee. Watson's on IR. And so, Trent McDuffie's a good player. But outside of him, you got Connor at the nickelback and Johnson, who's a 7th-round pick from a couple of years ago at outside corner. They're vulnerable there. Yeah. And they've had some unsung heroes step up the last couple of years here on teams, Pat. That's not a strength of the team anymore.
And that's how they end up losing that. Well, almost losing that game, forcing that game into overtime with the 2 defensive pass interference.
Correct.
Late in the fourth quarter. So that's something you just can't have.
Cowboys and Commanders. Now, this was an insane game.
Yeah,
where it looked like it was going to be 6-3, 10-7, one of these boring-ass games, and then all hell broke loose in the fourth quarter. What did we learn from this wild finish, Pat?
Oh, man, that divisional opponent games are something that you always want to pay close attention to, regardless what the records are on either side. Cowboys came to play, and the fact that they was 11-point underdogs, I think they came in that game with a little chip on their shoulder. Playing some really, really solid football. Special teams playing a huge part into that game. Cooper Rush playing a
gigantic part.
Yes.
Special teams were massive in this game. The Cowboys had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Yes. So you always want to pay close attention to these divisional games, especially with this game being almost a rivalry type game between the Cowboys and the Commanders. So Cooper Rush played a solid game. Defense played okay, good enough to win the ball game. So this is a good game by the Dallas Cowboys, and to get America back on their bandwagon, I guess, because they still ain't going nowhere.
No, they're not, but they played spoiler here. I mean, Washington will probably still make the playoffs, but now they've lost 3 in a row. Yeah. And to have a game boil down to your kicker missing 2 extra points and you're giving up 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, I would not want to be the special teams coach showing up to work tomorrow there with the way that happened.
Speaking of special teams real quick, Pony, what is up with special teams this year and kicking?
I know. It looked like every kicker could make kicks from 70 yards like it was a video game in September. And now dudes are missing short kicks. We'll get to Fairburn with Houston. He missed a kick inside 30 yards that would have tied the game in the fourth quarter. And he's made tons of 50-yard kicks this year. So that was bizarre. The Turpin play, you are one of the great punt returners of the last 20 years. The dude dropped the ball, picked it up at his own 3-yard line, which I would have been shitting my pants in that situation, by the way. And then he pulled off in the moment. Now, we've had Barkley leapfrog and turn his back.
It's crazy. It's on my TV right now.
But his spin, man, what a play. What a feat of athleticism that was to turn a broken play into a touchdown. You know what it's like when guys are bearing down on you like that in the heat of battle. Like, that ended up being the difference in this game. That
Oh,
return.
it was a difference in that game because I feel like that took the momentum and it put evidently more pressure on Washington. So it forces Washington to press the issue more. So now with that 99 yarder, that's like a punch in the gut. That's like a Holyfield, George Foreman body shot. Like, that's taking everything out of you. And that's what that play did for the Washington Commanders. And they never could seem to get back on track until like 2 minutes left in that ball game.
And then McLaurin, and then Daniels to McLaurin, and then you missed but to be fair, the snap was terrible.
Yeah.
But my thing has always been, if the hold gets down, the kicker's got to go through his routine and still make it, and he didn't. Would you practice your returns, Pat, or was that a total thing that was instinctual for you as a player?
No, we used to practice our returns, and they used to be on Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so every Wednesdays we would go through our returns. I catch the ball, look forward to setting up the blocks and seeing possibly where I can crack some daylight at.
But was it hard when it wasn't live? I mean, when you know you're not going to get hit in those situations, does it change it?
No, not really, because for me, I like to visualize, things. So, and I rarely got hit for the most part when I was playing punt return. I probably got like one real big hit, and that was by DJ Swellinger. But other than that, I rarely got touched because I was either going to go down or run my ass out of bounds. Like, I wasn't giving you no free shot. Hey, but also too, Pony, me and Turbin got something in common, man.
What's that?
I had a 99 yarder as well, and almost not my spin move wasn't as quick and shifty as his, but I had a spin move on my 99 yarder as well.
Spencer says he's got the clip already loaded up.
Donnie Jones to punt. Patrick Peterson back at his own 10-yard line. Good high kick. Peterson looks around. Backpedals, takes it at the 2. Trying to get outside. Turns it upfield. Patrick Peterson gets by the punter. Peterson may go all the way. He will. Patrick Peterson wins it for the Cardinals.
Dude, you're turning around and you're almost falling down and you catch yourself. That's like some Matrix shit.
Yeah, man. So the only difference is mine was for the game winner, walk off. We ain't playing no more football after mine, Cap.
Dude, that was nuts. There's honestly, I think in those situations, and tell me if you agree with this, it's like, in order for something like that to hit, you have to be close to perfect, but you also need the coverage team to F 2 or 3 things up. Like, it's a perfect storm.
Right.
You need to be like, the game needs to slow down and you see it like it's the Matrix, but also they need to really screw up in a situation.
No doubt about it. And they did. Honestly, if you go back and watch it, I know, Spence, you don't have to run it back, but the Gunners, he was supposed to, one guy was supposed to run behind me and the other guy was supposed to be in front of me. Neither one of them did their job. So that was one mistake. And then the next mistake was the punter kicking the ball in the middle of the field. So that's number 2.
What are you doing there?
So that's number 2. Then the last mistake was they had a freaking long snapper trying to tackle me. That's a big no-no.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
So
that's
like you said,
on memory lane here. That's a great job producing there. So have that one ready to go.
Had the more encouraging game, Caleb or Donald?
Well, I think you might expect me to say Caleb here because it's all about his long-term development, and he was outstanding again today and getting them in position to score a touchdown, onside kick, make the throw, field goal, overtime, and almost willed them back to win. And his stats were tremendous in this game.
They were.
But I'm going to say Darnold, and here's why. They're 9-2. When you've won 9 of 11, you are in the conversation to compete for a championship. And there have been games here where we've come on the podcast and said, Well, Minnesota won, but Jesus, did Sam Darnold do everything in his power to try to lose that game. This was a legitimate defense he played against today. No one thinks that the Bears are some pushover defensive team. And he threw for 330 yards. And I think the most impressive part of it is this, Pat. He didn't turn the ball over, and Chicago took Jefferson away. So I can't sit here and say, well, he just chucked the ball up and he's got the best receiver in the NFL, and that dude made plays for him. Addison had a monster game with 162. Hawkinson had 114. So that's the type of game that gets you. I'm not putting Minnesota in the same breath as Philly and Detroit. I'm not. But that's a type of game that makes me think, hey, maybe Sam Darnold is not a guy that's reverting back to the player he was in Carolina and in New York. He's showing something during this winning streak, man. The last 2 games, he showed balls to me, and they could have easily, after they lost momentum, blown the game in overtime, and he orchestrated a perfect 90-yard drive to win the game for them.
Yeah.
You're going to say Caleb?
I am, because I don't want to agree with you with Sam Darnold. Just because we got to have some type of, debate, or, we can't agree all the time.
Make the argument for Caleb then.
Yeah, I'm going to make the argument for Caleb. I feel like Caleb had the more intriguing game, because look at what he's been dealing with over the years in general. And he played up against a number 1, number 2 defense himself.
With their blitzing and their exotic looks and the keeping you guessing. Exactly.
Right. And that's what gave me that that's what's giving me the edge towards Caleb, because the things he had to see. Like, Chicago's defense is good, but they're not blitzing and sending all type of exotic looks at you from left and right, up the gut. Like, I won't necessarily say their defense is kind of stagnant quo or static quo, but their defense is not as exotic as the Minnesota Vikings defense. So for him to not turn the ball over, for him to make the throws when he needed to, for him to show off the athletic ability that we all been wanting and waiting to see on a consistent basis.
The jump throw he made to Swift was one of the best throws in the NFL this season.
Unbelievable. So seeing the growth that he's seeing, the steps that he's taken, I got to go with Caleb Williams, man, because he is the future of that team. And now the team and the organization starting to see, man, if we just can protect him better, you give him a better game plan, really utilize his skill set, we're really going to be cooking with hot grease.
Do you think this Minnesota team is better than the one that you played on that went 13-3?
Yes, defensive wise, because defensively, I felt like we was.
How about overall?
Soft. Overall, I'm trying to think who we have. No, not overall.
Okay.
I feel like if we had Brian Flores calling the defense with the guys who we had in the 2022 season, we had a legitimate shot of winning it all. I just feel like we were just entirely too soft on the defensive side of the ball. We just sat and watched guys, catch the ball in front of us and just try to come.
Try to be bend but don't break.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it worked in certain games, and it helped us come back because we didn't have to put so much pressure on the quarterback. We had a lot more eyes on the quarterback, so it had it had its perks because we had a lot of interceptions, but we also gave up a lot of touchdowns. So I feel like if we would have had that aggressive approach on the defensive side of the ball, we would have definitely made a deeper run in the playoffs.
But with Cousins as a quarterback, you still think that was a superior team then?
Yeah. Just because, and look at the year that he had that year.
He threw for over 30 touchdown passes. He wasn't no slouch.
Yeah, threw over 30, a bunch of game winners, 2-minute drive, game winners, on the huge wins on the road. So we had a shot. We just needed to be more aggressive on defense, in my opinion.
Broncos Raiders, another big game for Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. He showed out again. Is it time to give Sean Payton some credit here Pat, for what he's doing with this team.
Yeah, I love what Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos are doing, man. Really leaning on their defense and allowing Bo Nix to utilize his athletic ability when it's calls for. If you go back and look at the game, man, and although he's throwing some dots inside the pocket, but I really feel what's starting to make him more comfortable when Coach Payton started implementing those rollouts, those naked boots, giving him easier reads in the game to get him into the flow of the game. And next thing you know, now he's throwing the ball all over the yard. Sutton had a big game today. Who's the running back in there? Williams had a big. Yeah, he had a solid game today. So, and we already know that the defense is going to provide for you each and every week, having the best corner in the game with Patrick Surtain not giving up. Giving up 2 catches in the last 2 games. So he's playing outstanding football, and they're really, really leaning on his cover skills to take out number 1 receivers. So, yes, it is about that time to start giving Coach Payton some credit, because what he has been able to do with this Denver Broncos team, leading back to the end of last season, going into this season, these guys are looking like a really dangerous, well-coached football team. And around this time of the year, this looks like a team you might not want to face right now.
Uphill battle, I still think, to make the playoffs because of their schedule. And I thought this was an opportunity to have a letdown game today, but they didn't. So I got to give them props for not going on the road to Vegas and losing to a 2-win team as a favorite, and letting thinking that they could go in there and cakewalk with a younger quarterback-led team. You see those teams lose games like this when they just assume they're going to win. As far as Nix goes, the dude has unreal confidence. Like, I actually think he's more confident in himself than Caleb Williams or even Daniels. The dude thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, he's not yet, but that's half the battle with these guys, I feel like sometimes. He's not intimidated by anything. And so I actually think he's a great match for Payton. And then the reason why I'm going to give Payton credit, their defense, they're going to set a Broncos team record for sacks, it looks like. And they've got no big-name pass rushers, Pat. It's not like they're paying a Max Crosby or a TJ Watt or somebody like that, and those dudes are getting 15 to 20 sacks. It's by committee. It's guys that mostly NFL fans have never heard of who are making big plays. And Cortland Sutton, you mentioned him. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. They could have easily traded him in the offseason, at the trade deadline. They didn't. And he's got a connection going with the young quarterback. So I give them credit, man, because they looked like they were going to be one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NFL before the season started. Yeah. And they're right in the mix. They're in the driver's seat to get that last AFC playoff spot.
Yeah, it's gonna be, like you said, it's gonna be an uphill battle, but with the confidence that they're playing with and their head coach, we all know how he likes to get his team geared up to play a football game. So it's gonna be fun to watch the Denver Broncos, man, in the final 7 weeks of the season. Lions coach, Detroit win with the defense. What does this mean for the big picture?
How about this stat? This is the first time since 1999 they haven't given up a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. Which, to be honest with you, I didn't even know back in 1999 that the Lions were good enough to do that. I would have thought the stat would have gone back to like the 1950s.
That's why Barry left.
Yeah, exactly. 2 things on the big picture. I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a head coach somewhere else next year. I think that they're going to lose both coordinators. Ben Johnson will be somebody's head coach. And Aaron Glenn, with the turnaround with their defense and the Duke without Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to get a job. So Anthony Richardson statistically looked like the guy before he was benched. He was under 50% passing. It was 11 to 28. So they got him back to the guy that was not accurate with the football. And then they shut down Jonathan Taylor, who had 35 yards. So that's a testament to this defense doing it again without Hutchinson. Yep. But then the big thing for the Lions is this for me, Pat. If you're not rooting for them, if you don't have a soft spot for them, I honestly think you're just a douchebag. Like, they are, in my opinion, the most likable team in the entire league. Unless I'm an Eagles fan and I'm looking at them as the team that's going to block us, or I'm an NFC North fan and I'm a Bears fan or a Packers fan and I just can't bring myself to root for the Lions, which I guess I get. How do you not like this team? The way they play, the head coach's mentality, the way everybody buys in, how physical they are, how hard they play. Every team, I think, aspires to be what the Lions are. They're just, for me, to turn that franchise around the way that they have. They were so downtrodden for so long. People were talking about for years kicking them off of Thanksgiving because people were sick of watching them play that game Thanksgiving afternoon. I love it. I'm affected by it. I want to see them do well. If the Steelers can't win, I'd have no problem with the Lions putting that Lombardi trophy in the air and having a Super Bowl parade in Detroit in February, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's looking that way. It's trending in the right direction for them to make a serious run in the playoff. The big picture is that this Lion team is for real. Their defense is continuing to get better each and every week, even with the absence of Aiden Hutchinson. Ever since he went out, it seemed like the defense got better. I know they didn't get any sacks today, but how they have been playing as a collective has been championship defense.
They don't beat themselves. You don't see like a
not.
broken play. You don't see like a big penalty or a long gain or an easy drive for the other team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Early on in the year, the young fella had a lot of the corner.
Arnold.
Number one. Yeah, Arnold. He had a little handsy issue in the first half of the season, but for the most part, it seemed like he got that cleaned up. But you're right. They do not beat themselves. They limit the explosive plays. And even when Jared Goff is not throwing touchdowns, they still are capable of putting up 21 plus points.
If I'm Shane Steichen, though, and my team just lost by 18 points, I go into that team meeting on Monday and say, hey, we got blown out technically. In offense, you guys come with me. I'm an offensive coach. We got a lot of things to clean up. But defensively, I'm telling my team, hey, you just held a team that's averaging like 40-something points to 24. You did your job on Sunday.
Yeah, we got to score more points.
No doubt, but their schedule's made up of New England, the Giants, Tennessee, and Jacksonville the rest of the year. You give me that defensive performance, we're going to win a lot of football games in the final month and a half of the season. Their schedule's so easy. They're a sneaky team at 5-7 to look out for over the next few weeks because they're playing a bunch of cupcakes. Pat, I don't know if you're a sweet tooth guy, but if you are, you're going to love the Colts over the next few weeks.
I love it. Hey man, speaking of bets, man, let me tell you one of my parlays today. The Packers let me down.
Oh,
I took the Packers to win, but I took the under 44. I took Philly to win 2.5 over 49. Denver win with 5.5 over 41. Seahawks win -1 under 47. Green Bay had to score that last touchdown, man.
Dude,
I said, don't score.
You got a little greedy there, though. I mean, all your picks were basically dead on.
I know. And all of my overs and unders,
except
Packers.
for one.
Oh, man. Pony, I was so upset.
Yeah, you got effed there for sure. That's brutal. That's a tough
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you can. Hey, misery loves company. I have a lot of losing bets that I can share. We'll fill up a whole podcast on those, actually. Bucks and Giants. The Giants' embarrassment at home after releasing Daniel Jones. You had fans walking out of there at halftime. It was so miserable.
Yeah.
Is it time to just blow the whole thing up, Pat, and start over if you're them?
Yes, indeed. And if I'm John Murrah, send everybody with him. Blow everything up. Send the general manager. Send the head coach. A couple players. Let's just start it all over because evidently it wasn't Daniel Jones. They still can't score any points. They still can't stop anybody for the most part. And they still look like they're dysfunctional on the offensive side of the ball. So that's the proof right there that he wasn't a problem. Yeah, he could have played better in his time there, but he was not the problem. So yes, it is time to blow this up, and might be an old coaching job for Bill Belichick, but we'll see.
Dude, I was just going to say that. I think it's got Belichick written all over it. Did you see the Sean Tucker fumble where the ball was on the ground at like the 5-yard line for what seemed like 30 seconds?
Baker just hustled up.
Giant players are looking at it, and no one's doing anything about it, man.
I did see that. Yeah,
I mean, that just speaks volumes about the state of the team. You've got Baker Mayfield trolling DeVito with the Italian gesture after he ran in the touchdown.
He said he's a good guy.
Yeah, and honestly, I look at Malik Neighbors and some of the things he said after the game. And the guy is brand new to the NFL. He's brand new. And he already seems disheartened and disenchanted by the whole situation there. You're not supposed to already have such a disdain for your workplace when you're that new to the job, Pat.
He only been there, 6 months?
Right. And it already looks like he feels like he's in hell.
Yeah.
So
he'll be there for a while.
Well, but I'm just saying it's just an eye-opener that it's just not a comfortable place and a good place to go to work. And they have to do it. I mean, it sucks because they've started over. They've had, since they won the Super Bowl in 2011.
How many winning seasons?
They've had, I believe, 3 winning seasons. And in only 2 of them have they had a positive point differential.
Wow.
Since 2011. They haven't won a single playoff game since the last time they won the Super Bowl. They've turned into one of the laughingstock franchises in the NFL, Pat. And that's why I think they're going to go with Belichick, because they're looking for continuity. They're looking for somebody that they can kind of depend on, even though he's almost 80. But but you know what I mean? Like the mental lapses and the guys checking out and that kind of thing, they're going to feel like Bill is going to come in and eliminate all of that. Now he's got to get the quarterback situation right.
Mm-hmm. But do you think? Tell me this: with Bill and Bill, that's a very, very intriguing name. But you just said something that was very intriguing as well. You said guys being checked out. I'm not going to say guys checked out for the New England Patriots when he was there, but don't you think with him being 80, and now this ain't going to be the Patriots way anymore? You got to obviously build another way. But now being around guys, he's been out of the league for a year. He won't have anybody there to really mold the guys and mold these younger guys into the Patriots way. Do you think he still will want to coach? You see what I'm saying?
Well, I think the reason why he's doing all the media stuff is because he's dying to get back into coach. He wants to break Shula's record for most career wins. I think, and this is going to be a huge, huge if, and I don't believe he can do it. But I think he's got to check his ego at the door. If I were him, if I were advising him, or if I was running the Giants, this is what I would tell him. I would say, Bill, we love you for what you're going to bring to our defense. And I think his game management skills are good, like knowing when to take time out, that kind of stuff.
They're the best. Yeah.
We think you're buttoned up and great at that, focused on that. We just really need to figure out who's going to coach your offense. And also, you're not going to do the drafts. You can have input, but we're not going to make you the general manager where, in addition to coaching a team, you don't have time to scout and look at college players all year. I think that's partly why his drafts ended up being so bad in New England, because he tried to do everything. So, we'll work with you to find somebody who you can be a partner in this, but we're not going to hand the keys to the entire organization over to you. And I know that's what he wants. I know he thinks he deserves that. But you've got to get somebody who's more equipped to relate to younger offensive players, like you brought up with Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. Draft a quarterback and then pair him with an offensive coordinator that fits his style. And then let Bill manage the game and coach the defense. And if you can do that, I think you might have a decent, you could turn that thing around in a year or two. That's not out of the question, Pat.
Nah, I can see that. My thing is, it's just how young these kids are in the locker room now. And will he still be able to relate and
No.
communicate. That's what
Well,
that's
maybe.
what I'm coming
I mean, the way he's trying to portray himself in the media, maybe he will. I don't know. He's doing the Manning cast. He's doing the McAfee thing. Maybe that is helping him get street cred with younger players. As stupid as that sounds, I don't know. It might. These guys are wired different than I. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I don't know what the F makes these guys tick now.
Yeah, you're right. Cardinals, Seahawks. Kyler threw more touchdowns for Seahawks than Arizona. Did the Cardinals bubble burst?
So my daughter goes to a gym class every Saturday, and they let bubbles go at the end of class, and she's like trying to like poke them and grab them. It's actually pretty cute. And so some of them get away because the kids are under 2 years old and they're not the most coordinated. So this bubble's like hanging there right now, and there's a finger that's right next to it, but that finger barely misses it. Okay, this to me, if they had gone to Seattle and just lost the game today, Pat, I would say, it happens. It's tough to win in Seattle. You've brought that up. It's not an easy place to play. It was raining. Shit happens. Go get them next week. But they scored 6 points.
Yeah.
And I just felt like Kyler, the whole game was like such a defeatist mindset or attitude. He just looked like a guy that just very early on figured out that it was not going to be their day and was just like, whatever. We'll, hit. I did not see a guy that was like, hey, they're not doing much on offense either. Let's go out and win this game. That's what I wanted to see from him today.
Yeah.
I wanted him to see they've got 16 points. They're not doing diddly squat on offense either. Who cares that we've sucked for 2 quarters or for 3 quarters? Let's put a drive together and win this game. And I did not see that from him in this game. And that irritates me because I've been singing the guy's praises for the last month.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't see that at all as well. And that's one thing that Kyler's going to have to understand, man. Like being a quarterback, regardless what the circumstances are, like as a defender, and we say this all the time, like we love playing for Kirk Cousins. You know why? Because he's not only going to hold guys accountable, but he's going to express his feelings. He's going to express those emotions, that fire, because what that does is that pass through the rest of the team, and that's contagious. So I would like to see more of that as well, because little do you know, man, that can really, because the other guys had it. The other guys are still in the game. But if the quarterback is not having that same fight and passion that we're playing with, it's like, God damn, like what are we doing? What are we out here doing? You know what I mean? So I just
saw him too many times like throw a ball away, look down, like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah,
this happening today.
Yeah, I hate to see that.
The 4th down play where he threw an interception, it was just like nonchalant, like, all right, I'm just going to see where this goes.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude.
And probably what happened too, he was getting beat up.
Right.
Yeah. So he probably was seeing things, feet got a little bit happier than usual, and then just didn't want to get hit anymore and just start throwing the ball away.
And look, I mean, I've seen Tom Brady look that way in games. I've seen Aaron Rodgers look that way in games a lot lately, where he's just like, F it. But the difference is those guys, one has 4 MVPs, the other has 7 rings. And like when they were in their late 30s, early 40s, all right, like I almost get it. They're near the end of their careers. They're fed up. They know that they're not going to win that day. They almost kind of, cash in, throw in the towel. This dude's trying to iron out his legacy in the NFL. And I thought this was an important game today. Seattle's owned him. He's not played well against them lately. And as you pointed out, the Rams lost. The 49ers lost. You beat Seattle today, and you are big time in the driver's seat. You're a huge favorite in the division. You kept everybody else in it by losing this game today, Pat.
And no doubt about it. And this has always been the Arizona Cardinals' problem heading into November, December football. It seems like they cannot find ways to win ball games. You know what I mean? So they're going to have to do a much better job of that this year to keep their hopes of the playoff.
If I had told you that Seattle was going to score 16 points today, would you have picked the Cardinals to win the game? Would you have bet that? I would have.
Yeah,
16 points.
And the only reason I picked Seattle today because I know the history between Kyler Murray and CenturyLink. Well, I don't think it's called CenturyLink anymore, but whatever the stadium is called now,
Lumen Field.
Lumen Field. So yeah, Lumen Field is always a tough place for him to go in there and try to squeeze out a victory. So that's why I took the Seattle Seahawks. But if you would have told me in the beginning of the game that Seattle was going to only score 16 points, I'm taking Arizona all day.
That's now 6 straight for the Seahawks over the Cardinals. Patriots and Dolphins, Pat. Tua has a huge game.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick Miami to make the playoffs? Were you there yet?
Man, not yet. Not yet. I want to see another performance. And also I want to see the Dolphins defense close out the game a little bit better, almost pitching a shutout into the late in the fourth quarter, then just started giving up trash points and trash plays. That is the time where you suffocate teams. That's the time where you stick the fork in them. And especially if you want to get back into this playoff hunt, you want to build that confidence. You want to build that swagger leading into these next 7 weeks because you're going to need it. But I think if the Dolphins can give me another solid performance like that and close out the game, I'm about 70% there of giving them a shot of making the playoffs. But I'm not there just yet. And I will say when Tua is in the lineup, this Dolphin team they look damn near unstoppable. You know what I mean? Because now the offense is fully available for Tua and Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch when you seeing that offense move the ball up and down the field, seeing Tua with his connections with the tight end Waddle and Hill. So if I can get a little bit more out of the Dolphins, I might just put them in the playoff hunt, but not right now.
I'm not going to do it yet either. Now, Thursday night, they've actually turned Thanksgiving into watchable at night now that Tua is back because that Packers game does have extra meaning. You said they're going to lose?
Yeah, it's going to be a cold game at night. And the Dolphins, I was a Dolphin fan growing up, so.
But
I
you're
know.
Brutally honest about it.
Yes, anytime we went out west to play at the time, the San Diego Chargers, the Dolphins, San Francisco, always got our nose beat in. Anytime we played a cold team, Buffalo, we go to Green Bay. Who else used to play cold? I think we played New England. One for us.
Yeah,
and it's the history is going to repeat itself. It's still repeating itself since I revoked my license from being a Dolphin fan. So they're going to lose.
Well,
it is going to be a watchable game, though.
I unfortunately feel the same way. I mean, they've done this. The wins are against the Raiders and Patriots here, and the Rams wins the Rams win actually doesn't look as good now that the Eagles just murdered them. But offensively, they look like the team they were last year. It's 29 points per game with Tua. It was, they couldn't score touchdowns with Huntley in there. And it's 11 touchdowns during this run for Tua. But it's on the road, and it's not in perfect conditions. And their schedule is very tough over the last few games. So I still think they're relegated to spoiler. Even with the 7th playoff spot being up for grabs, I think the Colts are still in it. I think the Bengals are a tiny bit in it. I think the Broncos are the favorite to get it. You're shaking your head no on Cincy. I don't think they'll get it, but I think they'll be involved, I guess is what I mean. I don't think Miami, I think it's too little too late for them. Mm-hmm. But I do think at the end of the day, here's what they're going to do. They're going to play well enough offensively where it justifies the Tua extension and it saves McDonald's. It saves McDonald. I'm thinking of the Seattle coach. It saves the coach's job because I think he was in trouble, Pat. If they ended up winning 4 or 5 games, I think they might have blown him out of there. But now I think he'll be back next year because they'll say, give us a healthy Tua for 17 games and we'll be good again.
Hey, now that I'm looking at the standings,
yeah,
the Bengals might have a shot.
Oh my God! Look at you.
No, because I'm looking at it, but because the Dolphins, they got. Let's see their schedule. The
schedule's too tough for Miami.
Yeah, they got the Packers. That's a loss. They got the Jets. That's a win. At Texans, that's a iffy. That's a 50-50. San Francisco coming to Miami, at Cleveland, at the Jets to finish up the season. Oh,
Those will be winter weather games at Cleveland and at the Jets.
Yeah, so those going to be tough, and they're at the eighth. They're the 8th seed right now.
Yep, and 7.
And Denver is ahead of them by 1 game. So it's gonna come down to the wire, though. I believe it's gonna come down to Denver, come down for that 7th spot. Denver, Miami, Colts. I don't see the Bengals making a. I mean, I think they can make a run, but they're gonna probably lose to the Ravens.
I'm telling you right now.
And they're gonna drop one to the. They already played the Ravens twice. They're gonna drop one of those games to the Steelers at least.
I agree with that, and they can probably only afford to lose one more game. That's it.
That's it.
They're gonna have to win the rest of them.
Because let me look at their schedule real quick. So they got the Steelers next. They got Steelers
at home.
Yep, at home. They go to Dallas. They go to Tennessee, who played really well today. The Browns, Denver, and at Steelers to finish up the season.
You know what? That playoff spot might come down to the Broncos-Bengals game. It really might.
It might. Oh boy.
And the Colts got to go to Denver too. The Colts got to go to Denver too, but the Colts games other than Denver are Patriots, Titans at home, Giants, and Jaguars at home. They're going to be favored in almost every game but the Denver game. They should win another 4 games. That's why at 5-7, I think they'll get to 9 wins.
Yeah.
Last one here, Pat. Houston, I think the worst loss of the day. What's wrong with this team?
Man, my guy, my favorite young quarterback to talk about, CJ Stroud, man. And I want to say it looked like he's in a sophomore slump, but I'm not going to say that. And here's why. I think it's the offensive line. He don't have enough time to process plays, to go through his progression and deliver the ball to his playmakers. Joe Mixon is playing out of his mind. It's just when it comes down to pass protection, the offensive line cannot seem to do that.
Dude, he pulled Orlovsky today and ran out of his own end zone.
Say it again. I know. Just because it's offensive line, man,
I know.
The dude is running for his life every time he dropped back.
I know.
So, like I said, I won't necessarily say it's a sophomore slump because we all know what CJ Stroud can do, right? This guy has been he got to be the most hit quarterback in the league, right? He has to be. Spence, please look that up.
He's up there.
He has to be. Yes. So and we all saw this when CJ Stroud have an opportunity to stand in the pocket, go through his progression, he's a damn good quarterback. But this year, he has not been able to do that. The offensive line has been atrocious.
He sounded after the game. He sounded like he was in a trance.
Like it's defeated, no doubt about it.
I agree.
He sounds really defeated.
You know, this dude, Will Levis, throws some of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my life. And he did again today to Jimmy Ward, who took it all the way back for a pick 6.
Oh, my gosh.
However, he got his ass kicked. Houston had 7 sacks in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up scoring 32 points.
I know.
I mean, that's a hell of a game. Tony Pollard had over 100 yards, too. He balled out. But,
he did.
You know, you're talking about Stroud getting hit. I don't have as much sympathy for him because Levis got killed in this game, and they still scored 30 points on that defense. Like, if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I'm saying to myself, if we score 27 points, we should beat Tennessee every single time. Mm-hmm. Every time. That defense 100%. Has got way too many big names to give up 32 points, Pat. I'm sorry. That's a disgusting performance by them today.
And giving up way too many big plays.
Yes.
Way too many big plays.
One kid, Nick Westbrook-Akine, got behind him for a long touchdown. I don't get it, man. I honestly don't get it. With the names they have on defense, they got pressure all day today. How do you give up that many points?
Yeah.
At home to a terrible football team.
Yeah, total letdown by the Houston Texans to the Tennessee Titans. They really damn near made Will Levis look like a little Cam Newton out there, man.
Yep. And he just looked
he can. He just looked super strong, unfazed. when he was getting hit back there, delivering the ball with power. Just look super, super confident. And I think also with them, it seems to me with Tennessee, they're starting to move the pocket a little bit more for him as well. And I believe that's been the deciding factor on how Will is starting to get more comfortable in the offense, because they're giving him much easier throws to get him in a rhythm and get him into the game as far as throwing the football.
The mayonnaise and the coffee thing, though, is still super.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Are you a coffee guy?
I'm not, man. I'm a green tea guy.
I used to drink 9 to 10 cups of coffee a day.
That's ridiculous, man.
Well, hold on. And then 2 years ago, I got sick, and I'm like, I've got the flu. I'm not going to drink coffee. And I stopped while I was sick, and then I never picked it back up. So I've not had caffeine in almost 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not a coffee guy. Give me some green tea, a
How
little
about
honey.
pop? Do you like soda?
Just Sprite.
Man, I've not had a Sprite since I was in like 8th grade, dude.
It's the only soda I would drink. Sprite.
Spencer, are you a soda guy? Not really, he says. All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, we're going to have a great game tomorrow with the Ravens and Chargers.
Yes,
we'll be back to break down all week 13. We got Thanksgiving games, Black Friday games, a whole weekend of games, and that's what we do on this podcast. We do every game every week. Make sure you just don't listen, subscribe, tell your friends there's a great podcast with a former all-time great NFL player where we go through every game. You get the player's perspective, you get the whack job's perspective, and me, and we do it twice a week. Thanks for listening to First and Pod.